All right, ladies and gentlemen, hope you're having a great, what is it, Saturday night? Saturday night. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, George, that's a sweet jacket. I know, right? Remember this old Michael Jackson 1980s? You know how we do it? Well, I wanted to chit chat with everybody tonight. First off, to say thank you. Um, Recently finished this book right here. I don't know if you guys can see this, but right here, The Terror Before the Sacred. It came out, and it's uh, it's been a real, it's been a pretty big thrill for me, and I learned a lot doing it, and I hope people get to check it out because I really learned a lot, and I think that if you read it, you'll get to learn a lot, and that's why I'm giving out 10 free copies tonight. I got streaming to multiple platforms, so if you are interested, just leave a comment down there, and I'll send you a book for free. You can check it out. I've got a lot of great feedback from it, and I'm looking forward to getting it out into a lot more venues and talking to some more people about it and talking to you about it, actually. That being said, I got some other ideas that I've kind of been working on, and I want to share them with you guys. Now, I want to talk to you tonight about aliens, right? I know it's kind of a taboo subject to think about, and especially right now with so much going on in the world, you're probably thinking, like, why are we talking about aliens, George? Well, why not? Why not? I have a different take on it, and I really want to get your guys' opinion on what you think about it. You know, Forever it seems like people thought of aliens as like these, three-fingered, gray, silver cigar type of flying around intergalactically, just anal probing people. But I have a different concept on aliens. I believe that we are the aliens. Me, you, all of us. I think it's much more logical than the majority of theories out there. And let me know what you think. Let me know what you guys think. You know, is it possible that we are the aliens? Right? Doesn't that make sense? Like, it seems to me that it's difficult to describe. It's kind of tricky to think about. However, the more that I think about it, the more that it makes sense. Let me try to break it down a little bit. Okay. In order to really understand the theory, you have to think about us not really being human beings, but us being a human process. Think about that for a minute. And if you think about that long enough, I believe it'll start making sense. We're not really human beings, we're more like a human process. And if you think about that, you begin to understand that we're all part of the whole. And the idea of alien comes to us as an abstract union of all of us becoming one. Like, that's what makes us alien. Right? The term alien by itself is almost undefinable. Right? If something's truly alien, how would you recognize it? If something is truly alien, then you probably wouldn't be able to identify it, but you might feel it, you might sense it. And let's think about this word alien. It can be a noun, it can be an adjective, but think about the word alien in this form, to alienate, right? It's the same root word. Alien, something we can't quite process, alienate, for us to be alone. And isn't that kind of what's been happening to all of us, whether you're white or black or Native American or Samoan or you're from the East? Like, we've been isolated. We have been alienated, right? We've been alienated. And so the term alien also means to be alienated. It's a weird thing to think about. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I'm going to try to tie it together here. So let's say that we are the aliens. We are, in fact, have been alienated. And now we're coming to this new sort of knowing. We're beginning to understand what we are. And that's why there's so much turmoil right now. Like we're growing together. We're becoming one. Everything that we know about the world is changing. And it's not only is it changing, but the rate of change is accelerating. And that puts us in a position that we're not used to being in. It puts us in a position where no one really knows what's happening. And I think that is where we're headed right now. I think that's why things are so crazy right now, is that we're on the cusp of living in a world. We're on the cusp of understanding something that we haven't yet been fully able to understand. Because everything's breaking down around us. And when everything breaks down around you, it presents you with opportunities to rebuild it. Does that kind of make sense? And I think that's what we're seeing. Let me try to give you another example. If we are aliens and we're coming online for the first time, okay? And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but let me just show you what I mean. Okay. This book right here is called Connectography, right? And if you look at the I don't know if you guys can see the image here on this camera and on this one, but it's all about supply chains, okay? And when you think of globalization, think of supply chains. Think of the way in which the world is connected together, and those are supply chains. That's what's breaking down around us now. However, if you take a good look at this cover of this book, let me show you some inside maps right here so that you can understand. Let's see. You can kind of see the different pictures here. So like the bright spots are where the world is coming online. Here's another one. Can you guys see this one? I don't know if you can see that good on this camera. So either way, in this book, what you're seeing is the old supply chains and the new ones being built. But that's also kind of like a neural net. It's kind of like the same way that our brain is being wired. Like if you think about supply chains, like what do? Well, supply chains are a way for products over here to get over here, right? For the fastest route, for the most efficient route. It's a way for us to process information from here over to here. What's the same way information works in your brain, right? If you want to process information like in the visual cortex, or if you want to process information in Broca's area, you got to take the information from outside and bring it inside. So you can think of the way your brain works the same way the world's supply chains work. I know it's kind of an abstract thought, but there's so much literature in spiritual books or just throughout literature that talks about as above, so below. That which is out is also inside. So wouldn't it make sense if the way our brain works is in fact the way the supply chains work? Like how could it not be that? If you start thinking about it, how could it not be that? Like we take what's in here and we put it out here into the world, right? So our supply chains are a direct reflection of the way in which our mind works, which would be a reflection of what the neural pathways of our brain looks like. Doesn't that kind of make sense? I know it seems abstract, but we are talking about aliens. So it just seems like an alien type of concept, right? Which brings me to my next point. Hang on here. I need to have a little sip of it. Here's to you guys. I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and just read a little bit here from this book, and maybe you'll get a little bit better understanding of not only what my book's about, but this concept of as above, so below. Okay? There you go. This is how it starts off. From the bottom of my heart, I wish to thank you. I can see by the look in your eyes, along with the hint of a slight smug smile commonly worn by a Buddhist monk of the highest order, that we share a passion, a united desire to bring into being a style of education that shall forever change the lives of those we love. In doing so, we will also change the world. In times of crisis, we are presented with great opportunity. We have all been told that the most powerful force in the world is an idea whose time has come. I would like to take this opportunity to present you with a unique idea that will provide a one-of-a-kind toolkit, a strategic philosophical foundation on which one can build a better future, a renaissance, or perhaps even illuminate the pathway forward to a new golden age. The following will be an explanation giving way to an archaic revival. Some see things the way they are and say, why? We should strive to see things the way they have never been and say, why not? I like to think of our world as analogous to a school, as a sort of hideout for the hotshot world builders of tomorrow, perhaps as an isolated asylum in the middle of the galaxy for the criminally artistic. We, that is, those of you who have chosen to read this, or for those of you paying attention right now, are an elite force of militant New Age troubadours, willing and capable of being deployed throughout the world at any moment's notice to combat the hobgoblins of small-mindedness, the mavens, meisters, and maestros, the intellectual one-eyed giants, for it was written, the one-eyed man is king in the land of the blind. Let me be clear that my goal here is a simple one simple objective that I shall pursue relentlessly for the duration of this work, for my son and my daughter, for your sons and your daughters. My objective is to help them achieve the ultimate goal of life, to live a life worth living, of which there are three main pillars: a lifetime of learning, never value wealth or a job over quality of life. 3. The understanding that your life is a one-of-a-kind masterpiece, a work of art so beautiful that all those who are fortunate enough to take part in it are filled with emotion. Some will be brought to tears, some will be driven to rage, and some will be forever able to draw inspiration from your story. You are the hero of your own story. Act accordingly. Imprint your epic novel on the hearts and minds of those who can use your story as a torch to light the way in times of darkness. Scholastic endeavors have for the last 100 years emphasized logic and reasoning by methods of memorization and repetition. It seems the current system has rewarded the path of least resistance by choosing explanation over experience. This strategy, while at times effective, has stripped meaningful connection from that which is sacred, leaving only the profane. Repetition emptied of its spiritual content necessarily leads to a pessimistic vision of existence. Hence the existential crisis we find ourselves in today. If there is nothing sacred, then we have a life without meaning. Without meaning, we have no direction. Without direction, we are lost. And when we are lost, we suffer. That's the kind of introduction there. But there's the book, and it kind of gets into this concept I've been talking about with aliens and where we are right now as kind of a species. I think we're on the cusp of changing ourselves. In the book, I use this metaphor of like the silkworm. You guys know that, like a silkworm, or for those of you that used to catch butterflies, you would always see the caterpillar. And much like a silkworm spins its web and gets caught in it, so too do we spin a web and get caught in it. A web of lies, a web of language, our own individual web, and then all of a sudden we get to this point where we can't see. We get to this point where it looks as if the world is going dark. But what's really happening is a metamorphosis. I think it was Ovid in his book Metamorphosis that, pretty much taught about transfiguration and all that kind of stuff. But if you think about the world as a classroom and all that we learn by watching nature, doesn't it make sense that much like the silkworm who spins a web and gets caught in it, so too do we spin our web. And doesn't it seem, at least to nature and even great literature, that everybody knows that it's darkest right before the light? And that's where we're at right now. I feel as if we are truly changing forms. And that's where I kind of come up with the concept of aliens. Like, I feel like we have been in a cocoon or a chrysalis as humankind for the last maybe 100 years. Like the whole process of industrialization has been us building a cocoon and us spinning inside it. And now for the first time our new form is beginning to break out of it. Imagine if you've seen it in real life, or perhaps you've seen something on the Discovery Channel or something like that, where the butterfly begins breaking out of the brittle form of the chrysalis, or the new form, whether it's a butterfly or a moth or whatever's being transformed, begins breaking out of the cocoon. And where does it break out from? It breaks out from the parts that are most brittle. Right underneath the leaf, you'll see the cocoon has gone from like this green sort of web-like structure to a brittle, broken leaf. And where the leaf or where the cocoon or the chrysalis is the most corrupted, that's where the new form begins to break out of it. And look at our society as a chrysalis or as a cocoon. Where is it most brittle? It's brittle in the economy. It's brittle in education. It's brittle in society. And these are the places where the new form is breaking out. And let me give you an example. If you look at education, you can see that we haven't really had education for a while. We've had indoctrination, right? Our schools were built on the Prussian model of bells and whistles and authoritarian. And, for so long, public school systems public school systems around the world have raised obedient workers. But that's no longer the case. Kids today are smarter than, you know, Gen Xers or even those of us who came before. They may not have the same knowledge, but they have different knowledge. And their knowledge is going to be the knowledge that builds the future. They can learn online. My daughter does this thing called Prodigy. It's this online math app. And at the age of 7, she's already doing pretty complex calculations. And it's gamified. And she loves doing it. And it teaches multiple ways to add and subtract and multiply and divide. And it's a more advanced system of learning. Thus, she's learning things more advanced quicker, if that kind of makes sense. But that is one spot where the new form is emerging. It's in education. Today, you can look up any video you want. You can change a garbage disposable to learn how to paint your car just by watching a video. So the education is being made free to most people. Let's look at the economy. You could argue that what's happening around the world today is the failure of economics as we know it, the monetary system. And all around the world, you're seeing the new form emerge there, whether it's Bitcoin or whether it's some sort of barter or some sort of cryptocurrency or even a central bank digital currency. There's a new form of trade. There's a new form of commerce happening. That's another brittle spot. Look at the societal contracts that people have made. There's no longer, if we know that education is breaking down and we know that the monetary system is breaking down, then we know our societal system is breaking down. But these are all parts that have been broken for a long time, and it makes sense that that is exactly where the new forms would emerge. So, yeah, I would urge you to just think about that logically. Just think about, is it possible that what we're seeing right now through our language, through our economy, through our education, is us as humankind becoming what I call the human process? Think about the way you've been taught your whole life about our evolution and our history. Think about what concept pops in your head when you think about the word human being, right? Being means that you're here now. Being means that there's no sense of the past or the future, there's only now. But a human process, if you think about yourself and those you love and the world as you know it as a process, well, that changes our relationship. It changes our relationship with education. It changes our relationship with economics. And it changes our relationship in society. It changes the way we think about the world. And if we're all a process, then why would any one person be allowed to have so much more than others? Why would one race of people, why would one group get to control so much more than the others? It's like there's an old limerick that I heard about the body going on strike. And it was, the hands say, hey, look, we do all the picking. And the mouth says, we do all the eating. And the feet says, we do all the walking. Why does the lazy stomach get all the food? And so the hands quit picking, the mouth quits chewing and eating, and the feet and legs quit walking around. And in a matter of a few days, they're all so weak. The hands can't pick, the mouth can't chew, and the feet can't walk around. And then they realize that the stomach's not lazy. It's actually the source where the food gets distributed to the extremities. Right? So without the stomach, the mouth can't chew, the hands can't pick, and the feet can't walk around. And it's this idea that the extremities begin to learn that they cannot function without the center. Without the center, we can't hold, right? And so I think that's what's happening around the world, is this new form of consciousness, like this new realization that we can't go it alone, that we all need each other, regardless of what color or what race, or regardless of what we are as individuals, be it nations or towns or whatever. But it also means that the current system we have of government, it can't be centralized to that point. It can't be our government or a multinational corporation or a conglomerate of multinational corporations. Those are worse than governments. Corporations and businesses are worse than governments, just so everybody knows that. And the majority of what we're seeing today, based on governments and the multinational corporations, are these entities talking about, you know, talking about the future, talking about how to have a sustainable future when their business model is built on consumption. How can you have a business model about sustainability? How can you talk about sustainability when your business model is built on excess consumption? Can anyone figure that out? Like, that's how you know it's all BS. Like, it's all lies, man. It's all lies. But I don't know. Maybe this is what freedom looks like. Maybe this is exactly what freedom looks like. And that's maybe why there's so much propaganda. Maybe that's why we had COVID. Maybe that's why we have so much people wanting us to go to war, is because that the old model is breaking and there's no way to save it. And so they're looking, and when I mean they, I should try to be clear on who I think they are. I think they are, in large part, the World Economic Forum, the Atlantic Council, the Council on Foreign Relations, all of I would say anybody who's a senator or a congressman, unfortunately don't really care about the people whom they say they care about. How can they? I don't think you get to be in a position of authority unless you've been compromised in some way or shown that you can be compromised in some ways. And it's sad. I don't know if it's sad that I think that or if it's sad that that's true. However, I think a lot of people would agree with me. That's another part too. I wish everyone would think about the way you view the world. Like you see, like if you can see behind me, there's a big giant map, right? And for those of us who are Gen Xers, or maybe you're a generation, maybe you're the Boomers or the Gen Xers, or even some of the Millennials, you were taught that we're this group of nation states. Like we're the United States, and above us is Canada, and then you have Mexico, and but if you read a book like this, this is a great book, by the way. It's by Dr. Parag Khanna, and it's called Connectography. What they talk about in this book is we're no longer nation states. We haven't been for a long time. And the world you see is not a world of the United States government or the British government, or it is a conglomerate. It's a big giant board of directors where presidents and prime ministers sit at the board of directors, but they don't make any choices, right? Those choices are made by people whose names you don't even know. It's interesting to think about. But if you can just suspend belief for a minute and ask yourself this question: is it possible that the world I think I live in is actually a world in my own head? Think about it like that. The rules and laws that govern society are not the rules and laws that you as an individual who went to a public school or even a private school. Most of us don't get to see those rules. You don't know them. You don't get to live by them. But it's important to try to embrace, I think, or at least try to envision what the future might look like. Because then that way you have a better way of either creating it or understanding what's about to happen in it. But well, that's what I got right now. I just want to do a quick shot to, first off, try to have a quick beer with everybody. And it looks like I've already got 10, yep, I already got 10 people getting a free book. So thank you to everyone who participated in that. I will DM you with get your address and get this book out to you. I think you're gonna like it. To everybody else, I hope you're having a great night. I hope your tomorrow's even better. And I got a great group of interviews coming up. Also, if you guys had a chance to see my interview with Simon Critchley, this guy's amazing. Probably one of the best philosophers of our time. You should all look him up. Simon Critchley. Can you see his name there? Let me get it better here. This book is phenomenal. Look this guy up. He's amazing. On Tuesday, I'm going to start a 7-part series with Dr. David Solomon. He's got a book called The 7 Deadly Sins. And we're going to start off. We're going to be running Tuesdays at, I think, 7 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. So for those of you who have any questions regarding spirituality or ideas that may be alien, or there's some questions that you want to ask, go ahead and you can either DM me or just put them in the comments at whatever platform you're watching this on. And yeah, so here's to you guys. Here's to all of us. Here's to Michael Jackson and his awesome jacket. To the alien. To symbolic thinking. And to everybody we love. Aloha.